1 year ago, I released my first video journaling my process of building an off grid cabin as well as my reasons why. While I certainly wished I was farther along in the process, I wanted to pause and put out a video summarizing this first year. The things I've learned, the things I would have done differently, and the things that I've really enjoyed. After deciding to convert an old goat shed into the cabin, the next thing I had to do was pick a location. I spent a lot of time on both Google Earth as well as physically walking the property. Being in a predominantly farm area, finding a wooded and secluded spot was fairly difficult. It's not as remote as I would like, but I decided it was the best available at the time. I've mentioned in a few videos that this land belongs to a friend, and because I don't own it, I also needed to make sure that the building remained movable in case I bought my own land sometime in the future. Next up was to clear the area of brush, unwanted trees, and tall grass. Initially, we used a chainsaw, a hatchet, and a machete. Once that was done, it was up to a lawnmower and the weed eater to maintain the spot. Finally, it came time to move the building from its current location in the pasture over to the cabin site. The first attempt with the Forerunner was unsuccessful. The building had just settled too far into the dirt over the time it sat there. A friend agreed to let me use his tractor to move the building, but it was currently in the hayfield and wouldn't be available for a few months. I was definitely disappointed, but chose to use this opportunity to exercise patience. I still had the cabin site to enjoy both time alone and with my kids. Once hay season ended and the tractor became available, it was finally time again to get the building moved and set in place. I still wasn't sure how to get it leveled once in place, but the prospect of just getting it there was really exciting. Unfortunately, the tractor was also not the tool to move the cabin. After multiple attempts and nearly pulling the building apart, I had to admit to myself that I just needed a new approach. After a lot of thought and prayer, I decided the thing to do was to dismantle the building, haul it piece by piece, and rebuild it at the cabin site. Another frustrating delay. After having a little pity party for myself, I started to see the silver lining. The building, as it was, had very little usable space. The sidewalls were only around 4 feet tall. Perfect for goats to minimize heat loss in the winter, not so perfect for a guy that's 6'3". Combining the materials from the building along with other materials I had on hand, I could rebuild with much more usable space and be able to better customize the cabin to what I really wanted. So we undertook the task of dismantling and hauling all the building materials. This was honestly the most disappointing and frustrating part of the project. I found it real difficult to get up the motivation to make time to put in the work. It wasn't until the walls and roof were off that I was able to see enough progress to get some motivation back and get excited again about the cabin being built. After months of work, the building was finally dismantled and all the materials were hauled to the cabin site. Next up came the foundation. When choosing the site, I tried to find a nice flat area to build in order to minimize how complex the foundation had to be. Remember, I don't own this land, so I need to make sure that if I ever lose access to it or I'm able to buy my own land, I can move the cabin with relative ease. This kept me from setting any kind of traditional foundation. I spent a lot of time researching other options and kind of taking tally of what materials I had on hand to make this work. I came up with a pad and post approach that would make the cabin mobile if needed, but provide a stable base and an ability to make adjustments over time. This brings us to today. I've set all the pads, cut and charred all the posts, and set the skids in place. I have everything level and have begun the next step of insulating and installing the subfloor. All along, I've tried to share the highs and the lows, both of the building process as well as how I'm doing in my spiritual and mental health. So let's do some post game analysis of this year. First, on the construction project, what would I have done differently? I wish I would have just planned from the very beginning to dismantle the shed. I was tempted by the prospect of moving it as is and having a quote unquote cabin within a few months. but I'm actually glad I wasn't able to move it. If I had, I think I would have been quickly disappointed with how little usable space there was and really regretted not customizing it to what I wanted. I wish I would have been able to better understand how much benefit I got from just being on the property, even if the progress was slow. I mean, I knew being out there doing anything was better than sitting at home wasting time watching TV or just letting my frustrations bog me down into disappointment and depression. But I let myself make excuses for what I knew was better for both my mental health and as a result, better for my family. What I would not change: the time I've spent on the project so far. I am both more mentally and spiritually healthy because of the time I've spent on it. It's been really good for my kids anytime they've been able to get out there with me, especially our youngest. He's at that tough middle school age, and this has given him confidence and motivation. And the time I've been able to spend with him has been absolutely priceless. Next up, my mental health and my work through the Resilient Catholic Communities and the IDDM mentorship with Catholic Psych. I have learned an incredible amount about myself. I better understand why I react to things in the way I do. I've begun to identify unhealthy habits and work to turn that energy into healthier ways to handle the stresses of life. I'm certainly a work in progress, but I have a lot more hope that as the next chapter of my life approaches, I'll be able to keep getting healthier and be able to have greater peace and better relationships with the people in my life. Finally, on my spiritual health, as I learned more about my own mental processes, I've been able to understand better my relationship with God. I have a clearer understanding of what things are within my control and what aren't. I've gone from feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders all the way over to the opposite extreme, a form of depression that literally was leaving everything in God's hands, but really to a slothful extent. I was taking no action myself and not entering into a partnership with him. In a word, being childish instead of childlike. Now I'm trying to get back to a better middle ground, trusting in God, but making sure I'm doing what he has called me to do. Lastly, I want to stress some of the points I've made along the way. I truly believe that it benefits everyone to find their own garden, as I talked about in my introduction video. Our loving God has created this beautiful world for us, but it's so easy to get caught up in a million distractions and lose touch with our fundamental connection to all the beauty He has created just for us. You were created for a garden. Don't miss out on any opportunity to spend time there reconnecting with yourself and your Creator. Next, I could have saved up money and just written a check for a building to be set where I wanted it and have been enjoying a great cabin for months. But I'm glad I'm building it from the ground up. Or, I guess, from the top down and then the ground up. But there's benefit in manual labor to both our mental and spiritual health. I think it's way too easy to overlook that in our consumer based culture. And my final point: I've done everything so far with only spending about $10. Now, I realize that not everyone hoards building materials like I do. It's a weird quirk that I have because I enjoy building so much. My main point is that even if you don't have materials on hand or access to private land to build on, I want to encourage you to take what you do have on hand and make of it what you can. It might be as little as creating a backyard space for you to enjoy alone or with your family. Maybe it's finding hiking trails in local, state, or national parks. Or maybe you intentionally save up a few bucks for a tent from Walmart and a campsite at a nearby park. Whatever that looks like for you, make it a priority to close down the laptop or tablet, turn off the TV, put the dang phone down for an hour, and look up and around you at the incredible place your loving Father has placed you. Breathe in some fresh air and count your blessings. We're only here for a short time. Don't waste it worrying about people you'll never meet, achieving some form of success that'll be forgotten the day after you die, or making your life look perfect on social media. Learn how to love your God, yourself, and those around you just a little better each day. As always, I truly appreciate you watching. I hope this has been a blessing. Please know that I'm praying for you. See you next time.